Hey guys, Noriokai here, back with yet another Interceptor build guide. And this one's a little different because this isn't talking about going in and doing those big hits and dashing all around and, getting in and out of melee range and doing some kind of risky plays to get those big numbers. This is more of kind of like a chill build where you get to focus more around weapon play and gunplay. It's kind of cool because you can also change how you're actually affecting the squad based on what weapons you bring to the party. Um, and I'll kind of go over those more towards the end of the video to discuss because there's a lot of different combinations you can do. And hey, maybe you find out some really cool combinations, and you'll let me know down in the comments what you come up with because I think there's a lot of possibilities that can go along with this. But that being said, there's a lot of cool things that this build actually offers to the table. Because a lot of the Interceptor components, abilities, all do a nice pairing to increase your weapon damage output. So, nonetheless, let's begin with the Assault system. We're obviously going to run Ruthless Stalker. This is because you get a weapon damage increase of 60% for 20 seconds. This is huge, obviously, weapon build. The other thing you want to note is how this works. If you haven't really used the Searching Glaive all that much, because there isn't a ton of people using it, at least that I've seen. It can be annoying if you have people in the melee range because it kind of targets towards the center of the target, and if someone's in front of your target as you're throwing it at them, it'll hit into them and then you don't get the buff. So you do need to be aware of your positioning when you're actually throwing this. Sometimes even just hitting something that isn't even the main target just to get the buff is good. That being said, this does do a lot of damage, so it would be worthwhile to use it. But nonetheless, it is namely just to increase your weapons. So the strike system we're going to use is Sonadine's Respite, so the Plasma Star. This is good because when your shields get low, you can just kind of pop behind cover and you usually wait for the shields. But the nice thing is with this, just plop those weak points real quick and you can get your shield back. So it's a good healing mechanic while also putting out some serious damage if you set it up right. These little suckers do a lot when you're talking outside of shield. When you're doing the shield, they do roughly, I've seen like 6k to 8k. Based on whatever buffs you have up and running. That being said, you also, when you're talking about hitting weak points and you got your buffs up, I've seen 20k hits, so you can pop out a real quick 80k with the 4 hits if you have everything done in quick succession. So that's just nice, and it's also good because you're going to be ranged for the most part. So it's nice and easy to throw out there. So now let's go over the components. So, we're going to obviously run Wave the Salvage. This is just to, namely, reduce the amount of times you need to reload, increases the ammo drop rate, which then lets you actually utilize the collecting ammo perk on this. Now, I wish the timing was longer on this, maybe like 10 or 15 seconds, because it seems kind of ridiculous that you have to find a piece of ammo, run in and get that, but nonetheless, if you can set up so that you do your entire rotation and then come and grab this, grab like an ammo pack and then unload with your heavy hitting gun, you can output a lot of damage. It's actually pretty crazy. So the next thing I do is I run Wave the Swift. This is namely because you want to do a 5% to that huge hit on the assault system, your Ruthless Stalker, the Searching Glaive. Makes it do a nice chunk of damage. You're talking in the realm of like 18,000. Nice chunk of damage for, not having to do that risky of a play. You just get the throw glaive out and it just goes zoom to the target you are going at. The other benefit is if you set everything up, you're also adding 50% damage to your plasma stars. So you can hit even larger numbers. And that's why you can kind of melt if you hit weak points with the Plasma Star, which feels kind of great. So they kind of synergize really well. And that kind of comes to my main reason for using Way of Integration. Obviously, you're not getting any damage, acid damage bonus. But it's really easy to keep that gear streak up, especially with how quickly plasma stars recharge and how many you have of them. If you get the rotation down pat, you can really easily, you know, keep that 30% up for a lot longer than you'd expect. And also just getting some acid resistance isn't bad either. So continuing on, Conductive Lattice is namely for the gear cooldown. You're not really going to get much out of that, performing small melee hits. You can try other stuff, but I kind of like the gear cooldown speed, especially because your Searching Glaive has such a long cooldown on it. It's 14 seconds, but you can, with the reducing and all that, it's less, and you can make sure to keep that buff up all the time. That being said, you don't have to run it. If I were to say run something else, because you're running, say, for gameplay, you could take Double-Edged Inscription. That will make you take, 60% increased damage. But because you're kind of hanging back, it's a lot easier for you to dodge stuff. Staying in a cover, it's easy to regain shields. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But personally, I don't like running this because you're taking a dip in health and also taking an increase in damage. Yeah, your overall damage is going up by 35%, but I think when you're talking Grandmaster 2 and Grandmaster 3, the play is a little risky. But to each their own. You can obviously run it for the pure damage numbers. And if you get the gameplay down right, you can play safe. You can obviously regen shields, so it is something that can be done. But that's what I would take out if I were to take out anything in this build. Vengeance Matrix you really want, because 50% that's a lot. And then you take 25% more damage. I haven't seen that being a huge impact factor in the Grandmaster 2 area. You will see me drop low in some of the gameplay I have later, but the last thing you want is obviously Elusive Talisman, because you're talking about increasing your weapon damage by 25, and then the hugest part about this build, is dashing 3 times reloads your equipped weapon magazines, and that's like, you don't need to have your gun out, it's even on your hip. So dash 3 times and you reload everything. So it's actually really useful, especially if you're doing things that have really long reload times, like a Devastator or any of the snipers. Even some of the light machine guns seem to have a long reload time and so forth, but nonetheless, it's actually pretty awesome. So, and as per usual with support systems, we're going to run Target Beacon. It is just honestly the best. Like, there's no point to running Rally Cry until they add some system that lets you see the effects that people are affected by in any given scenario, so you could actually clear them for them. Because right now it's kind of just like, you'd have to communicate and be like, hey, do you guys have any effects on? And they'd be like, yeah, I'm on fire. But, by the time that goes out, you're taking a ton of damage anyway. And it's almost over, so... But anyway, now let's get into the weapons. And this is going to have a lot of variations. So what I've been running in free play and contracts, namely, has been the Avenging Herald and Divine Vengeance. Avenging Herald does really good damage, which I'm sure you've seen by now. And I'm talking I can get hits up to like 21, 22k with this, with all the buffs added to it. And then I run Divine Vengeance, thanks to a video Eric's Gaming had posted out, talking about how awesome this is, and it is actually really awesome, especially when you're talking in free play and contracts, when you get the mobs to spawn all on top of one another, especially when you're able to hit weak points really easily. You just see this clear adds so well, and when you have all the damage set up, it's just so nice. It's really great for clearing ads. That being said, other things you can run. So you could also run the Close Encounter, because essentially what you could do is you could, when you're running low on your weapon, you could swap to the Close Encounter, dash around, you do your 3 dashes to reload the weapon, and then it also gives you weapon damage 75% for 10 seconds. So it can also do a nice chunk of change. And I was playing with this a lot, and it is good to set up, but because of some of the weapon swapping delays, it can kind of feel kind of sluggish with the gameplay. But if you want to even increase your damage further, obviously running that can be a real good perk. So I've done things where I've run the Close Encounter, and then I've gone down and I've taken Truth of Tarsus. Because those two can combo really well when you get everything set up, and you can do monstrous damage with this. That being said, you don't really like Close Encounter is a decent gun, but it can kind of feel sluggish with all the other stuff. And its damage output honestly isn't the best, but with the increase in ammo drops and the amount of ammo you have, you can use this Devastator a lot, which is also really fun. But there's like the trade-off is where like when you're dealing with like maybe one mob that's left, that it can just kind of feel weird to play with it. But it's still fun, especially on bosses, just seeing yourself do crazy hits with it. Thus far, my highest hit with it was I think it was 533,000. It was somewhere around there. And I don't even know if I had everything set up properly, but that's at least the biggest one I've noticed. So other things you could run that could do decent damage. So you could always run things with this. You could run Thunderbolt of Yuvina. I've had good work with that. It's really good at taking out shields. And especially when you're talking about dealing with some of the stuff. If you're running Thunder of Yuvina, I would also recommend that you do take Conductive Lattice, because that does increase the electricity damage. So this could be really good if you want someone who has the ranged ability to take out shields. And that is really nice. So I might run Thunderbolt of Yuvina and Divine Vengeance. I might run Close Encounter and Thunderbolt of Yuvina. That being said, there are some things where the Thunderbolt doesn't actually proc on. Like the last boss in Temple of Scar comes to mind. Those pylons that come out, you only get the base damage. You won't be able to proc any of that. But you get a ton of ammo for it, so it's really good for dealing with any of the shield enemies. I think this excels at like especially taking out those mobs. But I also like having those big solid numbers. But you can really do. There's probably a ton of other combinations that you can do with all the different guns that are out there, and maybe you guys can find out some of them. But anyway, I will give you guys a little bit of Grandmaster 2 gameplay with this in a legendary contract I did with a bud. That being said, I am by no means an expert on this build. I much prefer the dashing play style. So it's not at its true potential in this video, but I'm sure the more I would practice with this, the better I would get, but it's just such a jarring difference in gameplay. But nonetheless, it's actually pretty cool and pretty fun. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Hey guys, so this is some Grandmaster 2 Legendary Contract gameplay with one of my buds. This is really fun. I do enjoy this build. There's a lot of perks to it. I'm also not playing this exactly perfectly. In scenarios like this, I should be throwing my Plasma Star to regain that shield. That 35% with, just a single weak point hit with the Plasma is real easy. And it does a lot of damage. So you should really be making sure to utilize your abilities more. I just kind of get really excited to see that Divine Vengeance blow up. It's really great. But yeah, so essentially this is more my, clear mobs build with having the ability to do some good single target damage with that Avenging Herald. Unfortunately, also there will be no music for this video as it's fairly short, and I apologize that you won't get much of the gameplay because I can only post videos under 15 minutes. That being said, you're more than welcome to come check me out on Twitch. I stream almost every night, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, and I am more than happy to discuss builds and talk about everything I do with the Interceptor. So I hope to see you guys around, and feel free to comment below. Take care.